Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Have an amazing show for everybody today. Bro show. People live for the pound. It's good
two bro shows in a row on Wednesday.
Two bro shows in a row. That's right. All thanks to my crazy schedule. But thank you for having me, Ryan. I appreciate it here on Wednesday.
Always a pleasure.
Well, but mostly thank you to Emily for letting me swap around with her. Oh, my God. All right, here's the tough part of the job. What do we have today? Israel. Okay, we're going to start with Israel breaking the ceasefire, bombing.
So guys, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, subscribe for free and subscribe to Breaking Points. And if you're ready, comment ready.
Parts of Gaza, where you talk about their pretext. We'll analyze some of what that is. Then Ryan is going to give us an update on some horrific developments in South Sudan, in Sudan. I'm not exactly familiar. The RSF, there's a UAE-backed militia and lots of killing. It's just a horrific story. We're going to talk about the storm. Hurricane Melissa made landfall yesterday in...
Yeah, it's interesting that they're talking about the Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica, because apparently they haven't had a storm like that in like the last 90 years. And also, tell me what you think about this Israel situation.
Jamaica, as well as the fact that there are thousands of American service members currently in Caribbean waters, remember, as part of this Venezuelan regime change operation. And there's some big question marks, actually, as to their own role. Are they going to continue with drug interdiction? Are they going to help with hurricane relief? They themselves potentially could be at risk, according to some sources that I spoke to. We're going to get over to OpenAI. There is a new story from ChatGPT that nearly 1 million people are actually interacting with ChatGPT on the issue of mental illness and suicide, in addition to a major whistleblower inside of ChatGPT warning.
Now, just let me know in the comments, do you use ChatGPT? I do, myself. With just general life stuff, you know, or if I need to know how to build something or put something together or, you know, whatever. Just, it's there to be an assistant. And that's basically it, you know. You can't let it consume your life, because it is easy to let that happen and get a little carried away. But yeah, let me know. Say I use ChatGPT.
Not to believe Sam Altman's claims about AI pornography, which I believe we covered in our last.
We did indeed, and it's a very disappointment because I really, like, my last guess was to just trust Sam Altman.
Yeah.
And if we can't trust Sam Altman, who can we trust?
If we can't trust Sam Altman, who indeed can we all trust? By the way, you'll all be happy to know that the state of California has helped Sam Altman and OpenAI transform into a for-profit company. So now we can just get rid of that pesky little nonprofit status.
How lovely for him.
Yes, thank you to the state of California, to Gavin Newsom and all the officials there who assisted the multi-billionaire. We are going to talk about Sami Hamdi. Ryan, you're going to give us a breakdown on this. He's a British political commentator. He's critical of Israel, and he was detained at a California airport.
Now, here's the thing. Why would he get detained at an airport, especially in California? You know, why?
Political prisoner.
Yeah. Well,
in the United States.
Has he been deported? Or is he? Okay. Wow. Okay.
He's still
deported.
Some of the details there on Sami Hamdi rings a little hollow, isn't it? Whenever we critique the UK for doing the exact same thing. Yeah. A little tough.
Yeah, let them speak freely over here, but if they come here, they're going to prison.
That's right, exactly.
Wow.
All right, let's go to talk. We're also going to talk about Snap, actually, by the way. We touched a little bit on it yesterday, but there's some brinksmanship going on within the current United States government about whether some 42 million Americans who are dependent on the Snap food stamp program are going to receive some of their payments and benefits on Friday, I believe. There's some fiscal cliff issues, but there are claims that the administration actually could pay them if they wanted to. There's actually some Republican efforts to try and to immediately fund the SNAP program, but
do you think that people who use the SNAP program should still be entitled to those benefits, whether or not the government is shut down? Just let me know. I want to hear from you.
That is getting poured cold water on by the White House and by Senate leadership. So
my thing is this: if you are disabled and physically cannot work, for a mental disability, a physical disability that is actually legit, and you are not scamming and gaming the system, yeah, I think you should get your benefits. But if you're somebody that's abusing the system, and we all know there are plenty of ways to do so by faking things or other means, those people should be cut off. That's how I feel.
This is when the shutdown really actually might start to impact millions of people's lives outside of the DMV here. Not to say that it already hasn't, but in particular,
that's right.
really
Is the
a
DMV
tangible
shut
thing
down
in
right
addition to
now?
air traffic control problems that we've seen across the country.
Yep.
And then finally, we're going to talk with Ben Smith about China. He wrote a very interesting piece. Actually, I really liked it. And it says, Trump is poised to end Washington's decade of the China hawks. Very astute, actually, in terms of where things are going. You probably have tracked my own evolution on the issue if you've been watching over the last 7 or 8 years. And it is, of course, something that any future politician is going to have to grapple with. Before we get to that, thank you to everybody who's been subscribing. BreakingPoints.com if you can support the show. If not,
definitely go and subscribe to Breaking Points, as I mentioned earlier. The link is at the top of the description. Okay, show them some love for their hard work.
No worries. Please hit subscribe on the YouTube video. If you're
There you
listening
go.
to this on a podcast, send an episode to a friend or rate us 5 stars. It really helps us with growth.
Give them the
put
5
this then
stars
up on the screen. Israel has resumed the Gaza ceasefire now after some 104 Palestinians were killed in airstrikes. Prime Minister Netanyahu ordered, quote, powerful strikes in Gaza as the ceasefire breaks down. I'm going to kick it to Ryan because, Ryan, I don't really know. There were 2 separate instances of their claims for the ceasefire breakdown. So why don't you explain it to us?
If you're going to break a ceasefire,
Sorry,
better to have
guys.
2 pretexts rather than just one pretext. The irony being, of course, that Israel has been out of compliance with the ceasefire from the beginning because a key part of the agreement was that it would flood in humanitarian aid.
Right. If you remember back, like what Ryan is saying, they were never really being too cooperative. Okay? So, it's like everyone's right, everyone's wrong in a different way.
They immediately reneged on that agreement.
Right.
Humanitarian aid is not flooding in. If we lived in a world where we just followed these things in a neutral and dispassionate way, we'd say, well, that is a violation of the ceasefire. I suppose now Hamas is going to just carpet bomb Tel Aviv as a response to Israel breaking the ceasefire. But let's get into the 2 pretexts.
Do you think that Israel should have broke the ceasefire? Or do you think it should have maybe happened sooner? Let me know, because a lot of people have so many different ways of looking at this whole scenario with Gaza. It's just so intense.
First is the claims of an almost identical situation in Rafah, where what they're saying is that
I used to know a guy named Rafa.
there was basically a cell, and this is within the realm of possibility, that a cell of fighters, whether it's Islamic Jihad or Hamas, gets cut off, from the rest of the forces, and they don't have access to the knowledge that this war has ended. Like, people on all sides have acknowledged that this is a possibility, and that if you come on these fighters, there may be conflict, and that is not ipso facto a breaking of the ceasefire that should launch a full-scale war. So according to the Israeli side, that is what happened. We don't have any information from the Hamas side or the Islamic Jihad side, which would, if it was a fighter or a group of fighters who were trapped, we wouldn't actually be able to get any information from Hamas.
Right, exactly. If that happened, there's no way they could have gotten that kind of information. I agree with what he's saying here. You got to definitely listen up.
Sir. Right. Yeah, Jay. Like they wouldn't know about that. This is a group they would have lost touch with many, many months ago. The last time they claimed this, according to my sources, it was in fact them just running over an unexploded ordnance or an IED, and then claiming that they had gotten into a confrontation, and they never backed up their claim of having confronted Palestinian fighters with any body cam footage, anybody captured, any evidence, any drone footage, any evidence whatsoever, ballistic, forensic, anything that would have shown that their story matched up. So I think that at this point we can say that the story of them running over the explosive we're going to lean in that direction. So one Israeli soldier has been said by the Israeli government to have been killed. So that happens. They're not going to name a person, a soldier who didn't die.
Yeah, I was wondering about whether or not they were actually going to name the soldier in that unfortunate scenario. It was definitely something that crossed my mind for sure.
So somehow some Israeli soldier did die. We also have, and we can roll A2 here while I'm explaining this. So this is, according to, this is drone footage put out by the Israeli military, which, and you can go and find the longer video, which claims to have found evidence that Hamas is playing games with the remains of captives. And this is actually an Israeli soldier who was killed about in 2024, and Israel at the time was able to recover most of his remains, but there was some portion remained with Hamas. And basically what they're saying happened in this footage is that they kind of moved it to a particular area and then called in the Red Cross and called in a photographer and said, look, like, we found this body here. And then they turned it over to the Red Cross. And what Israel is saying is that this is evidence that they're playing games and they're stalling for time, and that in fact they do know where more of the remains are than they're letting on.
See, this is what a lot of people, if you look in the comments of this video, they were talking about that. Like, are they actually going to be talking about the remains? Okay? Because that is a key factor in this whole scenario / story, whatever you'd like to call it. So I agree with what they're saying here on Breaking Points. What about you? Let me know.
Well, this still remains to develop. We don't know exactly yet what happened here, but you can watch the video and see for yourself that
for sure.
The Israeli claim, look, on its face seems to have some merit to it.
And this is what they have released, as you said. So yeah, I mean, this is one of those.
Right, and we also have to be extremely careful because any government should have its claims treated with extreme skepticism. But Hamas is a government too. In that sense. So it's like,
listen, we have no idea. There is, I mean, this is part of the difficulty in the post-war collapse of Gaza, is that, is there any centralized Hamas in terms of dealing with
and the more Hamas tries to become centralized, the more they criticize.
Exactly, the more they get criticized, the more they get bombed now.
And should 102 people have been killed?
104
250
this morning.
104?
Yeah, 104 Palestinians killed as of this morning. In
Dude, just stop and take a second and say to yourself, 104 people, man. Just like that. Like a snap of your fingers. It's just amazing how human life is just poof.
Retaliation. We don't exactly even know what the retaliatory strike was, who the people were that were involved. I do know.
And let's think about this. In either of these scenarios, okay, let's say that you did catch them playing games with these remains and stalling for time. Does that justify a bombing campaign across Gaza that kills more than 100 people and wounds more than 200? And if they did encounter a fighter who had been stuck for 8 months in a tunnel and he popped up and there was a firefight, does that justify killing 100?
Well, let me just read from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Israel's military says Wednesday that the ceasefire was back on in Gaza after it killed 104 people, including 46 children. 46 children! Exclamation. Are these not war crimes? Question.
Those are by definition war
question
crimes.
You can. Yeah. It almost seems quaint, frankly. After.
Well,
it certainly sounds like war crimes. I mean, if you look back to the Vietnam War, the war crimes were being committed daily. Okay. Because when you are knee deep in the shit, like they say, all bets are off, my friend. All bets are off.
We all lived through. We will also know that, from the administration, they're still trying desperately to hold this thing together. Let's put this up here on the screen. This is A3, Vice President J.D. Vance telling reporters that the Gaza ceasefire will hold despite today's exchange of fire. Quote, the ceasefire is holding. That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be little skirmishes here and there. We know that Hamas or somebody else within Gaza attacked an IDF soldier, he said, notably avoiding a definitive assignment of blame on Hamas. We expect the Israelis are going to respond, but I think the president's Palestinians' peace is going to hold despite it. That seems interesting, Ryan. Can we compare with the statement of Secretary of State Marco Rubio?
And this, to set context for Rubio here,
Well, do you agree with this? Do you agree with what Vance is telling reporters about the Gaza ceasefire holding? I'd like to believe it. I'd like for this to get resolved so we can all move forward.
This was on Air Force One before these incidents, and I feel like Rubio, the way he poked in here and put his face in front of Trump, sort of greenlit what came next. As we talked about last week, there's now this deconfliction zone, where the U.S. says that any response to a ceasefire break has to come through the United States. The United States is going to make sure that the peace is maintained through this 200 service member unit, this deconfliction zone. And Netanyahu had said publicly, we appreciate the Americans, but of course we'll never allow that. We are our own sovereign people. And so there's been a tug of war over who gets to break this ceasefire. Can Israel?
Right. See, that's a good way to put it, about it being like a tug of war, because that's honestly what it is. Because let's look at it this way. They both want the same thing. That's like the rope going back and forth, and it just ain't going anywhere. They're essentially at a standstill all the time. And that's why this situation has gone on as long as it has, right?
Just unilaterally break it. And then you have Rubio coming out and basically saying, yeah, Israel can do whatever it wants. So listen to Marco Rubio on Air Force One here.
You're talking about the strike against the Palestinian Jihad individuals?
Hold on, let me put this back. Everyone rewind this real quick like that. Watch.
Service member unit, this deconfliction zone. And
listen to
Netanyahu
Rubio.
said publicly, we appreciate the Americans, but of course we'll never allow that. We are our own sovereign people. And so there's been a tug of war over who gets to break this ceasefire. Can Israel just unilaterally break it? And then you have Rubio coming out and basically saying, yeah, Israel can do whatever it wants. So listen to Marco Rubio on Air Force One here.
You're talking about the strike against the Palestinian Jihad individuals? Yeah, look, Israel didn't surrender its right to self-defense. Obviously, the ceasefire is based on obligations on both sides. By the way, we'd also like to see Hamas speed up the return of hostage bodies. We still have 13 hostages, 2 Americans included. But we don't view that as a violation of the ceasefire. They have a right. There's an imminent threat to Israel, and all the mediators agree with that.
So leaning a little closer to Israel there. Now, but at the same time, as you heard him say,
I know the volume was a little low when Marco Rubio was speaking, but let me know, do you believe what Rubio is saying and what Vance is saying? And I mean, really, what Trump is saying?
We don't consider the slow release of the remains to be a violation of the ceasefire, and that's been a huge issue in Israel, because they really believe that they have all of the bodies and they're lying about it.
And actually, one of the things that the Hamas has responded with, they say, quote, we confirm that any Zionist escalation will hinder the search, excavation, recovery of the bodies, which will lead to a delay in the occupation's recovery of the bodies of its dead. Later, Hamas issued a statement calling on mediators to take immediate action to pressure Israel to restrain its escalation against civilians in Gaza and to compel it fully abide by the ceasefire agreement. What's crazy is this morning is Israel now is saying that they are back in full compliance of the ceasefire. So it's one of those where, I mean, I don't really know what ceasefire means if you just get to bomb and attack each other based on whatever you want. An IDF reservist, by the way, was apparently killed in that Tuesday attack. I did find it interesting in Ruby.
So yeah, where's the validity in that? Because, like he's saying here, it's just a very frustrating situation overall, if you think about it.
Rubio's comment, he said Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Maybe you can explain to this. They are not party to the ceasefire, correct?
No, they are.
Well, but this is what I'm trying to get at, is that, like, politically, yes, but this is what I'm saying in terms of the actual control inside of Gaza.
Yes.
As in, who knows? I mean, there's roving, there's no central law and order.
Right.
There's people with guns, in an area which has been bombed to nothing. It'd be like saying that, in the middle of a Mad Max collapse, that certain looters or something speak on behalf of the entire population. It just doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a pretty good comparison, the Mad Max thing for sure. because it really helps you connect the dots between, the fiction and reality of the situation, for sure. And if you guys haven't yet, let's see if we can just hit the 1 like goal. Thanks.
Right, and just the way that the kind of defense of Gaza worked over the last 2 years, you'd have all of these different units who were pretty stationary. Like, they would move around, but like, if you're the Beit Hanun battalion, you stay in Beit Hanun. Like, you're kind of shifting around the strip. And so for operational security, obviously there is not a lot of like electronic communication going on between a lot of these units, because Israel has that entire thing tapped and wired, and they're gonna map out the different flows of communications and just then start carpet bombing any areas they see being lit up.
Yeah, see, this is the second time that Ryan has mentioned the carpet bombing. Why do they feel that carpet bombing this area is the way to go? Because he keeps mentioning it, and I'm just really curious. I wonder what Sagar is going to say. I'd really love to hear what Crystal usually says.
And so that was always a question going into the ceasefire, exactly what you're saying.
Right.
Like, okay, we've got the negotiators in Doha agreeing to this on behalf of PIJ and on behalf of Hamas, but do they speak for every guerrilla unit in
No.
Gaza? And the hope was basically from the mediators and from everybody involved was that just the pressure of the momentum of the ceasefire would then kind of basically work to persuade. This is more persuasion.
If you guys are still watching this video, comment 555 or just say still watching.
Like, you're not ordering. Like, these guys are armed, and they're out there. They can make their own decisions. So yes, that is a live question here. Which,
sure,
when Israel then kills more than 100 people, think about what that does to the psychology of these fighters.
Did Ryan voice crack a little? Let's go to 1524. No, 1520. Listen when he says
kills
people.
More than 100 people. Think about what that does to
people.
The psychology here, which,
one more time.
When Israel then kills more than 100 people, think about what that does to the psychology of these fighters.
Right.
Everybody comment people.
Like the idea of the ceasefire to begin with, because they're like, we think for whatever reason, and now they're like, look, we told you. It's been 3 weeks. Exactly 3 weeks. They're saying, look, we told you Israel was never going to abide by this. Now they just killed another 100 people for nothing.
Right, and
so you said it right that time.
So the health ministry, caveats, etc. 46 children, 20 were women of the 104 Palestinians who were killed. Interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
Dude, 46 kids out of 104? Dude, it must have been like near like a school or like an orphanage or something like that. That's really scary, dude.
In terms of the Israeli response there, we do have some of the initial views of what that looks like. Let's go and put this image up here on the screen. This was immediately yesterday in the aftermath of what some of the attacks actually looked like, and all of this actually is in line with this new yellow line. We can put that up here on the screen.
That car
for
was
the Wall Street
destroyed.
Journal. Ryan, again, maybe you can help explain it a little bit to the audience. This so-called yellow line was the demarcation line through which Israel would control the ceasefire. But from the Wall Street Journal, they're saying a trip to the Gaza yellow line shows that Israel is digging into its positions,
right,
and seems to creating some sort of permanent berm for some sort of buffer zone. So can you just explain, because I believe that the yellow line that was originally agreed to has now changed.
See, this is the first I'm hearing about this new yellow line thing. Did you already know about the yellow line that they're talking about? Let me know.
Change, and they're actually occupying more of Gaza than they initially agreed upon.
Right. So the deal was, okay, Israel will withdraw back to this yellow line.
Right.
And then as soon as they do that, we being Hamas will release all of the captives. And so Israel withdrew back to this yellow line. Hamas released all the captives. And then people started going back to their homes. People came close to this yellow line, which is not marked anywhere at the time, still is not, not really marked. And so they'd go to, say, eastern Gaza City, where their homes are, and they would be shot and killed. Like an entire bus, a family in a bus, the entire family killed inside this bus. And so,
dude, it's just crazy how loosely we talk about families being destroyed and killed in a bus, no less. Crazy, man.
You had then this kind of contradictory impulse on both sides. Humanitarian organization would say, well, wait a minute, this is not fair. You're not marking, like, you're not even telling people. So what kind of sick game is this? Like, people just have to guess. And Israel will say, well, we publish maps, they should be able to look at the map. But people can't even recognize their own neighborhoods because it's just complete rubble.
Yeah.
Like, and think about as you're walking through your own neighborhood, like the different ways that you know how to get around. Like, there's this giant tree, there's this yellow house at the corner, there's the gas station here. Now imagine you've been away for 8 months, you come back, the tree is gone, the gas station is a pile of rubble, the yellow house is a pile of rubble, the red house that you knew was a pile of rubble. Like, at that point, how do you even find your way? So saying that, hey, you
see, in the United States, this is not something that we go through. So imagine these folks in these other countries where it's actually happening, and now it's happening more often. I mean, how could you not feel horrible, right?
There's a map on
Or am I
Facebook
alone?
you can look at. Isn't very helpful for people. Then they said, okay, we're going to put out yellow markers like every 200 meters or something. Also not extraordinarily helpful. Now they're building much more significant reinforcements, and then you see the contradictory nature of it. You're like, oh, wait a minute. So now, basically, this is just going to become your territory, because what's inside the kind of Hamas-controlled area, if you want to call it that, is basically Western Gaza, but not northern and southern, and then not the eastern part either. So it's like the inner slice of it, and all of the kind of agricultural area, lots of area that used to be heavily populated, is all within this Israeli zone. And they, ironically, I saw some, I think, propagandists calling it like free Gaza. It's like, no. The part that's occupied by Israel can't really call that free Gaza. But
right, I was gonna say, because Israel does occupy that part of Gaza, it's understandable why the heat is turned up as high as it is. This is exactly what Ryan is trying to say.
What they're setting up is just never leaving this area. Like that seems to be, and that's what the Wall Street Journal suggests here, that like they're reinforcing this in a fundamental way. And the irony being that they were negotiating over whether the buffer zone at the edge of Gaza would be 800 meters or 1,200 meters. And now Israel seems to be trying to create a reality where they're just way inside there.
And so broadly here with the ceasefire.
Right, exactly. What Ryan is saying with Israel, I totally agree. I get it.
Ryan, what do you expect, in terms of how this all plays out? Because
for some reason, I'm smelling hamburger. Do you smell hamburger? It smells good. Okay. So if you guys like hamburgers, let me know.
Because it flagged by our producer Mac, let's put this up here on the screen.
Yeah.
Netanyahu's testimony, if you're all wondering, in his criminal trial was cut short yesterday over, quote, security developments that happened in Gaza.
Amazing coincidence.
It just keeps happening, doesn't it? So it's one of those where...
Right here, there's a young Vince McMahon from WWF, WWE. WW. There you go.
Is it every single time that he's going to have to testify that there just happens to be some sort of pretext in Gaza, like at the subject of the Israeli political, sphere of what's happening, and then apparently America is just, fine with them violating the ceasefire and encroaching here on the yellow line? It looks very grim, and all the cynics, initially talking about the ceasefire seem pretty vindicated, I think, today.
Yeah, I wish we would just give the guy asylum. Like, political asylum. get a place in South Florida. Like it is not fair for 100+ Palestinians to have to die so that he can delay a criminal trial.
Yeah, I mean, it's harsh. Anytime a human life is taken, especially for something political, even mildly political, that's just a no-go. That's unfortunate.
That's no reason for anybody to lose a life.
Right. See?
Like just end this. Like, But yes, this is whenever he's gotten into political trouble or criminal trouble over the last 2 years, you've seen strategy change and tactics change around the attack on Gaza, and we're still seeing that.
Hey, if you like that video.
So, guys, I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts were on this situation. Are you for Israel or not? Please keep it respectful. Subscribe to Breaking Points. Links in the description. If you liked the reaction, subscribe over here. Let's see if we can hit our 1 like and 1 subscriber goal. And until next time, guys, you are awesome. You are worth it. Keep watching the world, and we'll keep reacting.